Let's start with strings before we hit files. When you have JSON text in memory, you use loads, set as load_s, to turn that text into Python objects. When you have Python objects and you want JSON text, you use dumps, set as dump_s. The pretty printing option is indent equals 2, which makes your output easy to read in a code editor. For compact strings, you can use separators to remove spaces. You will see both versions now. First, we will parse a profile string, then we will print a compact line and a pretty block so you can compare them visually. Let us start with strings before we hit files. When you have JSON text in memory, you use loads, set as load_s, to turn that text into Python objects. When you have Python objects and you want JSON text, you use dumps, set as dump_s. The pretty printing option is indent equals 2, which makes your output easy to read in a code editor. For compact strings, you can use separators to remove spaces. You will see both versions now. First, we will parse a profile string, then we will print a compact line and a pretty block so you can compare them visually. Real projects read settings from a file named settings.json in the current folder. If the file is missing, a friendly app creates a default one so new users are not blocked. In Python, you can use path from pathlib to keep paths clean. We will try to open the file with encoding set to UTF-8, load it with JSON.load, and if it does not exist, we will write a simple default configuration. This pattern is handy for any tool that needs a first-run experience, such as a command line utility, a small game, or a content creation helper. When saving settings, readability matters. Indent equals 2 produces clean, reviewable files that are easy to diff in version control. If your users store non-English characters, ensure SEI to false so letters show correctly. Sorting keys can also make pull requests easier to review. Here we open the settings file with UTF-8 encoding and a new line set to \n so line endings are consistent. Then we dump the dictionary. If you use this exact pattern, the file will be stable and friendly to humans and to your future self who wonders what changed 3 months later. Let's simulate a real update flow. We will load settings, bump the launch count, change the theme to match a user selection, and add a recent file at the front of the list. Then we save. This looks simple, and that is the point. Using JSON keeps your app transparent. You can open the file in your editor to verify changes, and you can ship sensible defaults that a beginner can tweak without learning your codebase. In a YouTube production workflow, this could store preferred font sizes or a list of recent projects. Sometimes a settings file becomes corrupted, for example if a computer turns off in the middle of a write. 2 practical tricks help. First, catch a JSON decode error and fall back to a safe default while keeping a backup of the broken file for debugging. Second, write to a temporary file and then replace the old file in one step. That reduces the chance of leaving a half-written file behind. The code you see now implements both ideas. It is a tiny bit longer, but it makes your tool feel reliable and professional. Your challenge is to build a tiny task tracker that stores tasks in a JSON file. It should load the file or create it, add tasks with a description and a done flag, list tasks with their index, and mark a task as done. Keep it simple and friendly for beginners. I will give you a starter with clear to-do items. Aim to write clear function names, small steps, and comments that explain why not what. In the next scene, I will show one possible solution and walk through it line by line so you can compare your approach. Here is one clean solution. We first load tasks or create an empty list if the file is missing. The add function appends a dictionary with text and a done flag set to false, then saves. Listing tasks prints a number, the text, and a simple status. Mark done looks up a task by index and flips the flag to true. The tiny menu loop keeps prompting until the user quits. Notice that every function does one job. We never duplicate file logic, and all writes use indent equals 2 so the file stays readable. This approach scales to small utilities you ship to friends or to a classroom where students can open the JSON and understand their data. Sorry I couldn't get the entire code on one screen. Hit me up if you want a copy though. JSON supports simple types, strings, numbers, booleans, null arrays, and objects with string keys. Python maps those to strings, integers, or floats, true or false, none, lists, and dictionaries with string keys. That means sets and tuples are not directly supported, and dates must be converted to strings. A common pattern is to store dates as ISO strings and parse them back. The code now shows a small helper that turns a datetime into an ISO string during dump and then recovers it with from ISO format during load. Keep this pattern in mind whenever you save timestamps, for example when recording when a task was completed. Quick recap. You learned loads and dumps for strings and load and dump for files. You created defaults when a file was missing updated values like theme and volume and saved with indent equals 2 and Unicode-friendly settings. You also handled bad files and wrote atomically to avoid corruption. For the challenge, you built a tiny task tracker backed by JSON that feels real and useful. Next time we shift to virtual environments and pip so you can isolate packages per project and keep your system clean. Here is a short code snippet to preview what we will discuss, including how to check the active interpreter and guide users to install a package in the correct environment.